Well, good afternoon, everybody. And I want to especially thank the media today for being here, especially in full force, because you are our best hope of reaching as many people as we possibly can with a message that regrettably needs to be serious in tone because of the circumstances. Nonetheless, I realize that we are smack dab in the middle of the holidays where we are all greeting each other, wishing each other the best of the season, and being happy. It's the week before Christmas. Yet I'm joined here today by several of our council members, Councilmember Talis DeSantis Tam, Radian Cordero, Augie Toba, okay, and Dr. Jim Ireland, Head of Emergency Services, as we know, Chief Kalani Howell of the Fire Department, and Chief Joe Logan of HPD. I know that anytime somebody in a government position or an elected official or someone in authority tells somebody not to do something, that then becomes almost a guarantee that somebody says, yeah, well, I'll show you. Well, this is a conversation that we've been talking about for many months. This is a conversation that really got our attention with the Maui wildfires. And this is a conversation based on a lot of knowledge over a lot of years of how people behave during the holidays when it comes to illegal fireworks. So it's not anything we're fabricating. It is one of genuine concern. And this really, quite honestly, becomes about personal responsibility and not a matter of law enforcement. I'll let the chief speak for himself and what he wants to say as far as HPD's role. But what we really need to have happen, knowing how pervasive the use of illegal fireworks are, is for people to understand that we are now living in a time when things that we thought, or maybe thought we couldn't even imagine could happen, are happening. And it's been all around us for a while. And Maui certainly points that out. So that said, I want to emphasize the fact this is about personal responsibility. We're going to ask parents to monitor their kids. We're going to ask you to be sensitive to our kapuna, to animals in your neighborhood, to families that, quite honestly, are really fearful that perhaps their house could catch on fire and all the destruction and everything else that could take place. I can tell you this anecdotally. Last spring, we took our entire cabinet. We did 11 town halls in 10 weeks. I was surprised at some of the common denominators that came up in each one of those districts. And one of them was consistently the concern about the use of illegal fireworks and the threat that that would pose. And that was last spring before Maui ever happened. So our tone today is one that's most serious. Our request is to the public to take on the personal responsibility that you need to do so. Now, look, we get it culturally with respect to firecrackers, but the use of illegal aerials and fireworks is a recipe for disaster given our dry hillsides and the climate conditions we've been dealing with. And don't be fooled by the fact we've had just a few days of rain. When we were in Mililani fighting that battle, that was in green, wet grounds. And still yet, and I'll let the chief talk about that, there was a brush fire up there that was growing by the day, and our fire department did an incredible job of bringing that under control. So this is very real. It's very serious. This is our island home. This is the holidays where we express love and respect for each other. And today's conference is about that. It's about love and respect and personal responsibility and caring for each other. We talk so often and so proudly about who we are as a people, and our love of each other, and our aloha spirit that separates us from everywhere else on this planet. This is a time right now where we need people to really behave in ways that maybe you don't want to, but need to given the circumstances. This is far too dangerous. It only takes a little spark to set off something really major. And what happened on Maui could happen here. Don't make any mistake about that. And we've got an incredible firefighting and emergency services departments, but we don't want to flirt with that. We certainly don't want to flirt with all the injuries that take place as well. So please, I'm going to turn it over to these men now to talk to you about their perspective and what they see. But my message today could not be any more serious out of concern, love, and respect for the people of our island. Please, let's protect each other. Thank you. With that, I'd like to call up Dr. Jim Ireland, Head of Emergency Services.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Jim Ireland, Emergency Services. Every year we give this briefing. I've done it in the past, and I really just hope people heed this, or at least some people heed this, because you know, every year on the 1st in the morning, we provide you with the statistics of who was injured the night before. Last year I think we had at least a dozen major injuries from fireworks that EMS responded to. And this doesn't count the people who drove themselves to the emergency room. And by major injuries, I mean, hit in the face with aerials, loss of fingers and hands, major burns. I had my first ER shift as a young resident at Queens Medical Center in 1999. That was the Y2K year, and that night was full of firework injuries, and we actually had a fatality that night. I remember someone from the North Shore. And in EMS, every year we get people who lose limbs, get burned, and unfortunately sometimes lose their life. We have the statistics, but it's beyond that. I mean, these are otherwise healthy people who, through usually illegal aerials or illegal fireworks, have devastating, disabling injuries that they're going to be left with the rest of their life. And when someone is holding an illegal firework, these powerful M80s or M100s, they're holding it with their hands, and it goes off in their hand. Maybe they hadn't thrown it yet, or maybe the fuse is too short. And usually they lose a piece of their thumb and often 2 or 3 of their fingers. So they're left just with a stub of a hand. And so you can imagine, and it's usually the dominant hand because you're throwing it with the hand that you write with or your dominant side. So you can imagine now make a fist and try to take your keys out or tie your shoe or button your shirt. This is changes that will forever change the way they live their life. Last year we had, I think, at least one person hit in the face with an aerial. I think they lost their sight and their vision in one eye because the aerial impacted the orbit and burned the inside of their orbit out. We had, I believe, a fatality last year. So, all of these are preventable injuries. We call them accidents, but there was deliberate activities beforehand that led to these. So think about the children. We had children hurt last year. Think about friends and family, neighbors that can be permanently impacted or killed by a bad decision to use something that's illegal. So just please be careful. The ambulances, this is the busiest night of the year for us with breathing problems, alcohol-related crashes, unfortunately, alcohol-related fights, falls, and the other thing. I mean, really, it's mayhem out there. And EMS is going to be stretched thin. They're going to get to all the calls, but they're going to be super busy. So if we could get a few less calls by people making good decisions, all of us would appreciate it. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the fire chief.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Every opportunity that we can to reach out to the community, like the mayor said, to just touch the hearts of everyone. That's one thing we know about our culture, that we care for one another. So I think we understand that fireworks are a tradition and it's part of our island culture, but we would be remiss if we didn't emphasize the dangers of illegal fireworks. So again, like the mayor alluded to, we had the fire in Mililani Mauka. It was wet, it was green, and we fought it for 10 days. That was on the news, and we finally gave over to the Department of the Interior, but actually it wasn't fully extinguished until December 15th. It started over 40 days. So I just wanted people to realize it took a concerted effort from federal, state, and city resources to contain that fire in that one area. So again, this is a great opportunity, like the mayor said, for everyone in our community to act responsibly, because there's only so much first responders that we can address any type of incident, whether it be a fire, whether it be a medical. So we need all of your help to ensure the safety of our entire community and our families. So thank you. I'll pass it over to Chief Logan.
Aloha, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. The Honolulu Police Department is going to be very busy, as with the fire department and EMS on New Year's Eve. We have several priorities for that evening, one of which is to handle the many 911 calls that we'll receive to help the public in all of the incidents or issues that they may have. The other one is impaired driving that may be on our highways, to protect the other ones that are on our highway that are not impaired driving, to ensure that everyone can get home safely. Another priority is going to be handling 911 calls that come in that are responding to you as the public out there trying to report illegal fireworks being fired off in your communities. And we will do our best to send officers to the scene, but I ask for you to meet us halfway and help us. if and when the officer gets there, is who fired off the firework, what kind of maybe you have a picture or a video or some kind of evidence to help us identify who the individual was. So if and then we could make an arrest for someone firing off illegal fireworks, we can do that to help the community stay safe. And the last priority we're going to have is keeping the H1 freeway really from Pearl City to Kapolei open, unobstructed, so no one is stopping to watch the fireworks makai of the freeway system. We did it last year. We're going to do it again this year. There'll be officers, both federal and state. There'll also be tow truck drivers available to help clear that roadway and keep it safe. Several years ago, it was blocked. It was really down to one lane, very unsafe, and people could have been seriously hurt. So I want to avoid that at all possible. So again, we'll be very busy that night. We need your help. I ask, as was iterated by several individuals, the mayor and the other fire chief and EMS chief, is really, if you're going to celebrate New Year's Eve, do it with aloha. Take care of each other. Take care of the communities you belong to. If you have a permit and you fire off fireworks, have at it and do what you need to do. But if it's illegal fireworks, that is not appropriate for this time. It's not appropriate for your neighbors to be able to have to work through stress and anxiety of you firing off illegal fireworks and then worried about their homes, their neighborhoods, their livelihood, and their own safety in the event of an accident. And there are many accidents that happen with illegal fireworks. So I ask you to take care of each other, and we'll do our best to take care of all of you. Aloha.
At night, on New Year's Eve can look like Disneyland, right? You guys seen the many pictures, the many videos. What makes this bad is that bad actors that's selling these illegal fireworks. And the fact that we don't live in a time where we should be sharing and really respecting one another, like the mayor said. We're not thinking about the elderly. We're not thinking about our soldiers with PTSD, our pets. I get it. Everyone in my community that complain about fireworks, they know it's coming. But the fact that we're lighting fireworks on October 19th or December 21st is no good. And again, because the wildfires is on our mind, we had a ton of emails about dry areas, dry bushes. This is so important for us to be mindful. And again, having a law for each other. So with that, I ask my community, Ewa and Waipahu, please be respectful towards each other. And know that there's people in our community that's scared, that's worried. And please show that aloha. Thank you, Mayor.
Aloha, everyone. Really quickly, I know you guys are here to ask questions to our chiefs here, but last night I met with a group of scouts, and they're 10 and 11-year-olds. And one of the questions one of them asked me was, what can we do about the illegal fireworks? And I was really surprised to hear that we have elementary school children from my community where this is at the top of their minds. And I grew up in the islands. I love the cultural aspect of it as well. But the best answer I could give to them was, we need to educate everybody. And if our elementary school kids, our 10 and 11-year-olds are worried about it, I'm hoping that the parents will take responsibility. That's really where it has to start. And we know that there's bigger issues with how we're getting them onto our island and into our state. But really, if everybody takes that own responsibility and we're not breaking the laws that are already in place, because our children are watching us. And I'm a mom myself, and I was actually really surprised to hear that question. And I hope that we can be the role models that our future generations are looking towards, because with Maui and Mililani Mauka, which is my district, with the fires that happened there, we really are so concerned about the safety of our communities. Public safety is a huge thing for us here, and we want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can. So I want to thank the scouts who asked me that question, because it really brought light to me that they're watching us. They're watching what the adults are doing. So it's our responsibility to really make sure that we take care of them and provide the futures that they need. Mahalo.
And I appreciate that. I would say it again, public safety is our number one priority. And there are a lot of priorities to being in this office, but that far outweighs all other concerns. And here we have a situation. Look, I wasn't born here, but I've been participating in New Year's Eve celebrations since 1965. It's a long time. I've watched over the years how it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Now I live in a place where I look off a balcony where I could see what's gone on. And that's my concern. That's my concern, because it is incredible what happens out there. And all of that last year was before I ever thought we'd lose a place like Lahaina. And so I don't want to use a scare tactic per se, nor do I want to necessarily come down and tell you what you can't do. But the fact of the matter is, we're asking for personal responsibility as strongly as we can possibly ask to take care of each other, as you've heard throughout this. These men get to see the other side of what people think is fun and games until somebody gets hurt. And when they get hurt, as you've just heard, they get hurt real seriously. Even more so, wouldn't it be tragic to start having fires in neighborhoods and losing neighborhoods? You know, this is unlike ever before what we're dealing with right now. So irrespective of all past practices, we need moderation, we need intelligence, we need responsibility. Please, as strongly as we can ask you, be smart. Let's take care of each other. With that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Well, that's exactly it, Bryce. It's having the evidence to help us if we're going to prosecute the case or make an arrest. Is that evidence of who did what with what firework? Is it illegal? Is it permitted? If they're firing off illegal fireworks and you know that it's illegal fireworks because they're aerials, then you need to take a picture so that we know who, or point out the individual, because we're going to get there after the firework is expended, a few minutes later. And so we won't be there to see the individual light that firework. We could be patrolling in a given area and see that, and then we can take the appropriate action if we observe it ourselves. But if not, it's very important that we have outside assistance, which are, the community members. We're not asking you to rat out your community members. What we're asking you is to take concern and prioritize your community as a place to be safe. And what better way is to help us help you? I think we've arrested one person so far, and we've given out, that I'm not sure of the number of citations. I know we've responded to about 137 incidents or calls for service.
I want to add one perspective on that. This is by no means meant to denigrate our police department. But if this was simply about law enforcement, we would enforce it all the way through. But we don't have enough police officers. I've been on a dais enough times with Chief Logan to know that, given how pervasive this is. This is, again, about personal responsibility and ownership and people being intelligent and understanding the potential danger here that we're dealing with. Okay, so the number of citations at the end of the day is by no way or means an ability to keep score, because if we could, knowing full well again how pervasive it is, there would be a lot of those. We just simply can't do that. That's why this is a public appeal to our public. It didn't come off right, but you know what I meant. Ben, go ahead.
So we're in support of the task force run by the Department of Law Enforcement with our federal and other state entities that are working towards that, along with our neighbor island chiefs and their departments statewide. And so that is ongoing. They're conducting operations. As far as the status, I haven't got an update on where they're at, but they've done several things to help, either doing a turn-in of fireworks anonymously to the fire stations, which happened earlier this week, or maybe perhaps doing other investigations within the pier system or the harbors where the fireworks are coming in. And so those are ongoing, but what the status is, that I don't have. I don't recall any convictions, but I know there were probably less than 10 arrests for last year.
I know, and that's the frustration of it, is because you sit there and you say, as I said a few moments ago, if it was just simply law enforcement and we had that capability, we would do that, but we don't have that ability. And we admit to that. There just isn't simply enough police officers to be there in every cul-de-sac, on every street, in every neighborhood to get out there catching people in the act of doing this. So I come back again. That's why I thank all of you for being here today. You are, as I said at the outset, our best opportunity to reach as many people as possible, knowing this is on the minds of people everywhere. Not just the people who are concerned about, I'm going to get there, I want to have my fun and set off my fireworks. So a lot of other people that are really worried and frightened. And I like what, Councilmember Tolbert said about Kapuna and pets and other people that are pretty helpless in situations like this as well. Very stressful situation. So people need to own that. For all that we talk about and how much we talk about caring for each other and the love we have for each other, that's what this is about. It's not about the enforcement. If we could, we would. It's beyond that. And that's what makes this such an oddity. And that's why I cite the Maui wildfires. You know, we've had several major unimaginable experiences in our lives in just the last 3 years. First one was COVID, and the second was the leaks at Red Hill. Nobody ever thought that would happen up at Red Hill to the extent that it did and all that that brought on. And certainly the loss in Maui is incredibly devastating, and it will be so for years to come. We've got to be smart here. We've got to be responsible. I don't know how else I can say it.
That is correct. We do increase our resources, especially on the west side and in the central locations, to ensure that we have more manpower, more resources to respond, because there is an uptick in fire-related events during the New Year's Eve. And throughout the week leading up to it, there's an increase. So yes, we do increase our resources. Correct.
We will open up at EMS extra ambulances if we have the personnel, and some years that's up to 5 extra ambulances. It's basically everybody in the department's offered overtime who's off and want to come in. Other years, depending on what's going on in Waikiki, some years we also do what's called a rescue task force, where we have members of EMS, HFD, and police together in one unit to respond to areas of concern, usually in Waikiki. So that's another thing we do some years. You know, it is just so busy that night. It's just like I said, it's mayhem, just call after call after call. And we will do some what we call system status management. So for instance, if all the units go out on the west side because of, let's say, firework related injuries, we may shift units from downtown up to the west side to cover, or vice versa. But it's just busy everywhere. So people are just running call after call after call. Yeah, we have had some EMS closures recently. The good news is, number one, we have 26 new graduates joining the force just last week. So that's going to really help with our staffing. The other thing is, in our department, we utilize a mutual aid response agreement with both the federal fire department, which has 4 ALS ambulances, as well as the private ambulance, American Medical Response, which has anywhere from 5 to 10 ambulances on per day. So in addition to the 21 city ambulances, we have potentially at our disposal 15 additional ambulances. And so, for instance, if there's a call on Pearl Harbor and the federal fire department is tied up, we'll take that call from them. And vice versa, if we have a call, let's say in the Salt Lake area, and we're tied up, the federal fire department will come and respond to that call. Same with like Wheeler area and Kaneohe. American Medical Response has ambulances distributed across Oʻahu, and our dispatches will talk back and forth with each other. And if they have a unit that's available, you know, they'll help us, and vice versa. If they have a call and they're short, we'll help them. So it's a very good back and forth, which provides extra coverage for the island of Oʻahu. You know, I can't quantify that as right here, but it is significant. You know, a lot of the folks with breathing problems like emphysema and COPD are older, although people with asthma that get smoke inhalation, it's all ages. And people who have had PTSD and related issues from war or other traumatic events in their life, we get those calls as well. I think Shane can give you a better idea on the first what the percentage is, but you know, the other big concern, I know we're talking about fireworks today, but alcohol is a source of a lot of calls New Year's Eve, and that's from falling down, fights, and impaired driving. And every year without fail, we get a few significant car crashes on New Year's Eve from impaired drivers. And I really don't want to see that, because again, that often involves innocent bystanders who are trying to just get home from a party sober, pedestrians, and we have fatalities from that as well. So, you know, we're going to be busy, not just from, unfortunately, the fireworks and illegal fireworks, but just all the calls that come with New Year's Eve.
Drone shows me lights only type of thing. Yeah. Well, you know, that's one thing when you start talking about a legal fireworks show that's being put on, because people, instead of having fireworks, go to those drone or light shows almost as if they are. And I've actually seen some of them, and we've had some discussions about doing that. That is in a very different arena, because those things are always done safely. Usually they're on barges out in the water. They're not in the middle of the neighborhoods versus what we're talking about. You know, and so I don't think necessarily, even if we were to adapt that, and we've actually had some discussions about that, and people were putting on firework displays, that's what we're concerned about here. What we're concerned about is those sparks in areas that are dry, that are just waiting to catch on fire.
Well, I mean,
Yeah. Well, that would be a very nice, ideal circumstance. Yeah, that would be. And you know what? Well, maybe it would be worth the money in that particular case, not what the cost would be if we thought that would happen. As I've said repeatedly, I've used the word pervasive. This is, we know to the extent the amount of illegal fireworks that come in here. I don't know, and just through the usage, and that's what we're talking about. And look, we're doing this today because it's the most serious concern that we have, and that's all we can do is we can appeal. I remember I once played for an old coach, and I remember asking him, I said, "Are you asking me or telling me?" And he said, "Both." So I'm going to tell you it's the same thing. We're asking and we're telling. Please don't do this. For our own sake, don't do this. If it's within your control, make the right decision. Help us. Okay? So with that, then, I'll just sign off by saying it is the season as I open up. And so I do want to wish everybody, a very blessed, healthy, and safe holiday season. Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you.